Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Vinyl Den, your channel for record collecting by record collectors. I'm Nick. It's Tuesday, time to talk about some new releases coming out this Friday, January 31st. I can't believe we're already at the end of January, but a little over 300 albums coming out this week. I got 10 on my list for today. There's a bunch of links down below. You got links for the Vinyl Den Facebook group, for the merch page, for the Spotify and Apple Music playlist that I put together every week, and the Patreon page. So make sure you check all that out. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button down below, and make sure you hit that notification bell so you're notified every time I release new episodes. Like I said in the intro, a little over 300 albums coming out this week. I'm not only going to talk about 10 on the show though today, so if there's something I don't talk about, make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing this week. And like always, if you're unable to find these in your local brick and mortar stores, they should all be available online. I'll put links down below in the comments section for them. You can also always go over to the Vinyl Den store on Amazon. Got all the pre-orders on there, all the new releases, bunch of cool stuff to check out. So I think one of the big releases this week is going to be the new album from the Weeknd. This is Hurry Up Tomorrow. It's his 6th studio album. There's a black version of this. There's also a clear version. Actually, if you go on the Weeknd's website, I don't think they're up anymore, but there for a while they had I think they sold it for 72 hours each, but there's 4 different alternate covers also for this album. This thing's going to run you about $17 online, which I think is crazy for a new album. It's like I'm back in 2017 or 2018 buying out new albums. You know, for a new release to be under $20 is pretty unheard of these days, but that's what they're charging for it. This is the 3rd and final album in a trilogy of releases from him. He started with After Hours back in 2020, then he did Dawn FM in 2022, and then he's got this one coming out. There's also a psychological thriller movie that's coming out in, I think it was May, is the release date for that one. Stars The Weeknd, stars Jenna Ortega. It's based off of this album. It's already released 3 singles off the new album. From what I've read, it sounds like it's supposed to be more of an experimental album than what The Weeknd has done before. So I'll definitely stream that one when it comes out this week. Then you also got the reissue of American Standard by 7 Mary 3 coming out. This came out back in 1995. It was their 2nd studio album. This music on vinyl release is going to be on black and clear marble vinyl, limited to 1,000 copies. It's going to run you around $38. So 7 Mary 3 released their debut album Churn back in 1994. It got some regional radio airplay. I think it was kind of big down in Florida from what I remember reading about it. And the band decided to take that album, re-record it. They re-recorded all the tracks. They added 2 additional tracks onto it, and that's what American Standard would end up becoming. I know this album, I think 7 Mary 3 in general, are really known for the song Cumbersome. There were a couple other tracks off this album, though. They actually got pretty significant radio play. It's one I haven't listened to in a while. I do have this on pre-order. I have it on CD also. I don't know why I haven't listened to it lately, but it's probably been at least 4 or 5 years since I've listened to it. But it's one I'm definitely looking forward to this week. There's also a couple of Elvis Presley releases coming out this week. The first one was Elvis 56. So this came out back in 1996. This is music on vinyl release. It's going to be on blue vinyl. It's going to be limited to 2,000 copies. It's going to run you about $40. I will say there are a few music on vinyl releases coming out this week. So 1956 was the first year that Elvis was with RCA. This is a compilation of a bunch of recordings from that year. I think there's 16 tracks on here. I was wrong. There's actually 22 tracks on this one. This is the first time it's been reissued since 2016. There's some rare photos in here. You know, I'm somebody I've grown up a big Elvis fan, but I can admit that I think the best Elvis releases are compilations. So it's one $40 is a lot for me. I might grab it if I can find it on sale somewhere. And then the other one is Rock and Roll King Live 1974 to 1976. So this is a compilation of live recordings. I think these are all radio broadcast tracks, though. This is going to be on blue vinyl. It's going to run you about $27. I'm not the biggest fan of radio broadcasts. These are always the type of releases where I kind of hold off and read some reviews before I decide to grab a copy. This is all of his best tracks on here, though. And I will say that as far as Elvis's live material, his later part of his career, I'd say from 72 until 75, I think was his best years live. You can go on YouTube. There's a bunch of videos on there. Some of his best live work is on there. I think at that point in his career, he's probably one of the best showmen in the music industry. But, it's one I'll read reviews on and see if it's any good. Another release I think is going to be really popular this week is Dio, the Very Beast of Dio, Volume 2, Dragon's Fire. So this came out back in 2012. This is a compilation album. So the first volume of it, so the best of Dio, came out, I think it was 2000? It was 2000 when that came out. This is part 2 of that. This covers the last 4 albums of Dio's career, so 96 to 2002. So this is going to be on Dragonfire vinyl, which is this like red swirl color. It's the first time it's ever been available on vinyl. It's going to run you around $39. There's 16 tracks on here. I'm really unfamiliar with the later part of Dio's career. I will say that I grew up a big Black Sabbath fan, but I was always an Ozzy Sabbath fan, and I never really got into any of the Dio stuff, or really anything after Ozzy left the band. And it wasn't until they reissued Heaven and Hell several years ago now that I finally started listening to Dio stuff, and I really love his earlier career. But his later stuff, like I said, I haven't really listened to, so this is definitely one I need to check out. And then you've also got a reissue of Katy Lied by Steely Dan coming out this week. Released back in 1975, it was their 4th studio album. It's going to run you around $30. This is a continuation of a very successful period for Steely Dan. This one hit number 13 on the Billboard 200. This is also the first Steely Dan album to have Michael McDonald on backing vocals, and it's one that I think I'm pretty much on the record for saying I'm not a huge fan of Steely Dan, but this is one of those albums where I haven't listened to a whole lot of stuff off this one, so I need to check it out this week. There's also a John Coltrane album coming out this week that I don't really know anything about. This is Live at the Half Note. So this came out back in 1984. It's a 3 LP release. It's going to be on blue and white vinyl, limited to 1,000 copies. It's going to run you about $40. So this was all recorded in February of 1963. At least that's what I'm seeing online. I couldn't really find anything else out about this album. I know there were 2 other performances from the Half Note that were released in 2005, but they have different track listings of what's on this one. This also looks like it's been out of print since 1984, so it looks like it's been a long time since this has been released. He does have McCoy Tyner on here, Jimmy Garrison, Elvin Jones, same people that are on those 2005 releases. But those 2005 releases were all taken from radio broadcasts. I couldn't see anything through the notes on Discogs or anything online saying this was or wasn't any kind of a radio broadcast, but I guess I'll wait and see once this reissue pops up on Discogs. Maybe there'll be more comments on that one. But I'm a huge Coltrane fan, so it's definitely one I'll try to track down a copy of if it's any good. You also got Thomas Dolby, Aliens Ate My Buick, getting reissued this week. Came out back in 1988. It was their 3rd studio album. This is another music on vinyl release. It's going to be on clear vinyl, limited to 1,000 copies. It's going to run you about $38. After the huge success he had with his debut album, The Golden Age of Wireless, which is, of course, the album that has She Blinded Me with Science on it, his second album didn't do all that well. So The Flat Earth was his second album. I think it hit number 35 on the Billboard 200, which I think is respectable. But, it wasn't anything close to what he did with his debut. And then with his third album, he decided to go down this completely different route musically. There's some funk on this album. There's some jazz. There's some reggae. There's some salsa on here also. It's definitely an interesting album to listen to. I know in interviews he said that he thinks the change musically on this album is really what drove down the commercial success of this album. It's one that I haven't listened to in a really long time. It's probably been since the maybe early 90s, I think, when I listened to this album last. So it's definitely one I need to add to my list to stream this week. There's also Live at Bowery Ballroom by Bleachers getting released this week. So this came out back in September of last year. It was only a digital-only release. This is the first time it's being released on vinyl. It's going to run you about $28. It's a 2 LP release. It's going to be on black and white vinyl. This is an Amazon exclusive, which when this was released digitally back in September, the digital version of it was Amazon exclusive also. But if you're not familiar with Bleachers, they're fronted by Jack Antonoff, who has produced some of the biggest albums of the last several years. Pretty much worked with the who's who in the music industry. But he's kind of struggled a little bit with Bleachers. Bleachers do have some good songs, but I think their albums are kind of hit and miss. This was recorded just before their self-titled album came out last year. There is a couple tracks from that new album. There's also some tracks from the first couple of albums also. I've had Amazon Music for several years now, but I never listened to it. It comes free with my Prime account. But I just got on there within the last several days just to listen to this one. There's it's a good live show. I don't know if I really need to have it on vinyl though, but Keep in mind that is coming out this week. And then the last one I got on my list is Death Cab for Cutie. We have the facts and we're voting yes. This came out back in 2000. It was their second studio album. It's going to run you about $23. It's much more of a cohesive album than their first one. I think this album where Death Cab really found their sound. It's a much more focused album. I think as far as Death Cab albums go, I think Transatlanticism is probably their best album. I wouldn't put this one too far behind it. It was funny though, when I was reading through the description of this album, it says it's on attractively priced standard weight vinyl, which I thought was really kind of a funny kind of way to word the pricing of the album. But I guess they're advertising that it's only $23 and it's kind of affordable, I guess. But I don't know. It is a really good album if you're not familiar with Death Cab. I think it's a good album to start with. Well, that's all I got for you today, guys. Thanks for checking the show out. Make sure you drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you're looking forward to grabbing this week. You know, they got the new album from the Weeknd coming out, which I'm not a huge fan of the Weeknd. I did really like Dawn FM, though, so I'll definitely stream that one. I've got that Submarine 3 on pre-order. I'll probably grab that Elvis 56. Maybe grab that Coltrane album, depending on what reviews say on that one. But let me know what you guys are looking forward to. Like always, if you enjoyed the episode, make sure you give me a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button down below. That's all I got. Until next time, keep on spinning. Peace.